In class, the boys organized a vote for the ugliest girl, and I ranked first. Among the names that voted for me, Simon's was conspicuously listed. I had secretly loved him for 6 years, seeing him as the brilliant son. With every stroke of his pen, he mocked my naive confession. Years later, during an interview on a TV finance channel, the host asked Simon if he had any regrets in life. Looking into the camera, Simon said, "In high school, I mistook a pearl for a fisheye, and accidentally let someone else snatch her away. I've regretted it day and night for 7 years. But fortunately, she's still single, so I still have a chance." The someone else he mentioned was dining with me. Hearing this, the gentleman put down his knife and fork, pushed the finely cut Wagyu beef towards me, and said he needed to make a call. On the seaside balcony, he coldly ordered, "HY Group has reached Series C funding, right? Have our 3 companies pull all investments." Chapter 1. The boys in class had organized a vote for the ugliest girl. When the voting book reached my hands, the whole class suddenly fell silent. The first page voted for the class beauty, the second for the class ugly. The competition for class beauty was fierce. For class ugly, it was a foregone conclusion. Name after name listed was mine. Out of 21 boys, 17 voted for me. I knew I wasn't good looking. Single eyelids, thick lips, dark skin, outdated hairstyle, and acne on my forehead. I was aware of my appearance, so I never longed for love, much less for Simon's affection. But seeing Simon's handwriting still made my heart sink uncontrollably. I had known him for 6 years and liked him just as long. I didn't expect that he would belittle me so openly the day after I confessed to him. Confessing to him was an accident. I was tending the family fruit stand at the crossroads when Simon passed by. I called out to him, handing him a bag of fruit, saying it was bought by his mother. Under the street lamp, his long eyelashes drooped. "Selena, I don't need your pity." He let go, and I didn't catch it. Apples and pears scattering everywhere, just like his pride at that moment. Fragile as paper, easily torn apart. I blurted out, "Simon, I'm not pitying you. I like you. That's why I wanted to be nice to you." Then I tried to sound casual. "There are so many girls stuffing milk biscuits and chocolates into your desk drawer. One more won't make a difference, right?" It took 3 seconds, or maybe 30. I don't know, but he finally spoke. "Sorry, I don't like you." His rejection was crisp, his departure nonchalant. It was expected. Nothing to be sad about. I laughed at myself, picked up the apples one by one, brushed off the dirt, and went back to calling out to customers at the fruit stand. My family lives in the last old flat area of the city, a place run down, crowded, and noisy. People here, weary from the struggle, have no energy to tidy up themselves, every face bearing the marks of poverty and exhaustion. Simon was different. His family had faced a catastrophe, their villa mortgaged, and they had temporarily moved here. Previously, no one in class knew my mother worked as a maid at Simon's house. He had protected my dignity. Now, my naive confession was also meant to protect his pride. Otherwise, I would never have voiced my feelings. But after my confession, he seemed to change, from being indifferent to detesting me. Chapter 2. In the evening study classroom, his handwriting was glaringly painful to see. The sharpness of his pen matched his persona. I turned to look at Simon. He looked back indifferently, his eyes devoid of emotion. The once brilliant sun had now become the light inside a refrigerator. All the boys in the class held their breath, waiting to see my reaction. Being ugly and sensitive would be disastrous. The ballpoint pen in my hand spun rapidly, touching down on the notebook several times. I took a deep breath, swept my pen across the page, and wrote my name, then turned back to show them the page. "I'll vote for myself too. If you don't want to be mocked, mock yourself first." That evening, the boys hung their heads even lower. After school, several boys who had voted came to apologize, saying it was all a joke, even saying that I'd actually look pretty good if my acne cleared up. I just smiled and said it was fine, because how they saw me didn't matter at all. As for Simon, I didn't want to care anymore either. That evening, I stopped him at the alley entrance and said everything I wanted to say. "Simon, I once borrowed a book from your home library, Jane Eyre, and there's a line in it that I'm giving back to you now, do you think? Because I am poor, obscure, plain, and little, I am soulless and heartless? Obviously, in your eyes, the ugly are heartless and have no right to be sad. It's funny. You aren't bad people. You tear up over kind deeds on the internet. You rage against injustices in the news. Yet you also ridicule your own classmates without realizing it. You think these evening study games are fun, so you play them, not caring if they hurt others. I used to think you were different, but it turns out you're no different from the rest. So, Simon, I take back my confession from yesterday. The Simon of the past, pure as mountain snow, bright as the moon among clouds. The Simon of today, ordinary, nothing special, regardless of whether I am beautiful or ugly. This version of him is not worth my affection. That day, something different flickered in his usually indifferent eyes, but I no longer wished to explore what it was. Not long after, I changed seats. I moved next to the school's most unruly student, Eric. He was the only boy who hadn't participated in the vote. He was also someone Simon deliberately avoided. Chapter 3, Simon's Perspective. When Simon wrote Selena's name in that malicious and insulting voting book, the image that came to mind was Selena smiling at Eric. He didn't think Selena was ugly. He had seen Selena without acne before. She might not be beautiful, but she definitely wasn't ugly. Simon's mother once commented that Selena had a kind of aggressive, distinctively personal beauty in her bone structure, and suggested that with some growth and proper grooming, she could perhaps be a good candidate for an international supermodel. However, boys at Simon's age rarely appreciated such qualities. Selena was academically excellent, resilient, and possessed wisdom beyond her years. She always managed to diffuse others' teasing and taunts with just a few words. Once, when Eric treated the class to milk tea, a boy teased her saying, "Selena, with all that acne on your face, maybe you should skip the milk tea?" She jokingly replied, "If you want 2 cups, just say so. Do my cleaning duties, and I'll give you mine." He admired her, but the kind of liking between a boy and a girl wasn't quite there yet. So when Selena confessed to him, Simon rejected her. Later, seeing all the things her family had set up in his house and the boiled water she had left at his door, he felt a pang of guilt, fearing she might be too upset. So, he went out to find her again, but at her fruit stand, he saw Eric. Classmates only knew Eric as a troublemaker who frustrated teachers, thinking of him as just some rich second-generation kid. Only Simon knew what Eric truly meant. He was the scion of a powerful family that his father had tried desperately to connect with but never could. The same family that turned a blind eye to his own family's misfortune. Eric's flashy motorcycle was parked at the crossroads, from which he pulled out a book and tossed it to Selena. She hugged it dearly, smiling warmly as she handed an apple to Eric. The same apple that Simon had just refused. Eric, a young master born into wealth, not only took it but, without even washing it, casually wiped it on his clothes and took a big bite. In the dark, lying on that old wooden bed, Simon stared at the silhouette in the opposite window, pondering that question again. Is Selena ugly? He thought. At least when she smiles at Eric. She is. She used to smile at him like that, genuinely, brightly, but as soon as Simon's family fell from grace, she turned and smiled like that at others. Chapter 4. Just 2 days after moving next to Eric, I regretted it. He was really odd. When I sat down next to him with my backpack, he was lying on the desk sleeping. He lazily glanced at me upon waking and muttered, "Not chasing after Simon anymore?" I retorted, "I was never chasing him." He snorted coldly. He was the only one in class who knew I had a crush on Simon. Having found my sketchbook, he didn't seem to like Simon much. When he returned the sketchbook, he said, "Really no taste." A few days after I moved, it was Valentine's Day, and the popular class beauties and beauties received lots of chocolates. Simon's desk drawer was no exception. Eric stormed into the classroom and suddenly pulled out a box of expensive-looking imported chocolates, saying no one at home liked them, so they were mine for cheap. I pushed them back, saying I was watching my sugar intake. Hearing this, he kicked his stool back, stood up, threw the chocolates into the trash bin, and left without attending the class. Simon came over, mysteriously placing a box of chocolates on my desk, saying, "These are sugar-free." The class buzzed with excitement, and my friend Camila sent me a note. "Damn, not a peep before, but a double hit now. One school hunk, one school tyrant. How did you do it, babe?" Of course. I wouldn't flatter myself to think that Eric or Simon liked me. Whether Eric or Simon, they were never from my world. Besides, I was still universally acknowledged as the class ugly. Simon acted this way because his mother noticed something was off between us. Once, I overheard Simon's mom telling him, "Selena is a good girl. Even if you don't like her, you should handle it more gently." As for Eric, I don't know. His actions have always been unpredictable. His strange behaviors even started to affect my studies. For example, he would play with strands of my hair during class, doodle my name on scratch papers, and race his motorcycle against my bus after school. His moods were fickle. When happy, he'd casually throw a few original books my way, share good songs, and bring me all sorts of little trinkets I'd never seen before. When unhappy, he'd block the hallway during breaks so I couldn't get out, or trap me in the equipment room for an entire gym class. I once asked him directly, "Eric, are you pulling these childish pranks because you like me?" He burst into laughter, his face turning red, like or dislike. "What childish nonsense. I just find it amusing to tease you when you're down on your luck." Despite his constant teasing, I didn't dislike him at all. On the night of the class vote, he stood up, snatched the book, and after reading it, tore it to shreds in a rage. Then he pointed at all the boys and burst out, "Do you even have any taste in critiquing others? Is this something a normal person would do? Being in the same class as you is a huge disgrace. And let me tell you, she is not ugly. You are the ugly ones." That night, he was a hero to me, a hero I never expected to appear. Chapter 5. Eric is a fascinating figure at school. He skips classes whenever he feels like it, comes and goes as he pleases, and no one seems able to control him. Annoyingly enough, he still ranks at the top of the class. My initial impression of him was that he loved to have fun. The first time I encountered him outside school, he and his friends were playing with water guns at a music festival, accidentally drenching me as I passed by. That day, he gave me a ride on his motorcycle around the ring road, claiming it would dry me off faster. Later, we were grouped together for a small social survey project. Every time we had a group call, he was in a different place, sometimes domestically, sometimes internationally. This first impression made me think he was always out playing when not at school. So, I was shocked to see him on the sports channel, so much that I forgot to eat. On TV, he was holding an air rifle with steady arms, his demeanor focused and serene, a stark contrast to his usual self. I held my breath as he aimed at the target and pulled the trigger. Just then, Simon, who was eating at my house, suddenly stood up and said to my mom, "Auntie, my dad is being discharged from the hospital tonight, and we haven't set up some things at home yet. Could Selena help me out?" Simon lied. There was no need for my help. As soon as I entered the house, he locked the door behind him, trapping me in his room. "Selena, you saw Eric shining so brightly. Do you like him now because of that? Do you know how bad it sounded when you two were locked alone in the equipment room during gym class? How ugly the rumors about you and Eric. Are you even from the same world as him? Do you know what his family background is, that you dare get so close to him? He doesn't even need to take the college entrance exams. He's going abroad after graduation. After your foolish fling, he'll still be his princely self. But what about you? Have you thought about how tarnished your reputation could become?" Just then, my phone lit up with a voice message from Eric. "Hey deskmate, did you see my awesome performance? Handsome or what? I'm outside your house. Come out. Let's go get some skewers." The old building had poor sound insulation, and his voice was loud. We heard everything clearly inside. Before I could react, I heard my mother's voice. "You're Selena's classmate, right? She's helping out at Simon's place across the door." After a moment of silence, I heard Eric say coldly, "Is that so? Then I'll head back first." The alley returned to quiet. But my phone beeped again. Eric, come out. I'm at the end of the alley. Simon moved closer to me, close enough that I had to stand against the wall. He lowered his head and almost pleaded in my ear. Selena, don't go, okay? Chapter 6. When I reached the alley entrance, Eric was leaning against his motorcycle, holding his helmet. Seeing me, he coldly said, "Get on." That day, he drove very fast. He sped for dozens of kilometers to the seaside before stopping. Once he stopped, he immediately dragged me toward the beach. He pulled me so hard it hurt, and my attempts to break free were unsuccessful. Eric, what are you doing? He only stopped when we reached the seaside, then turned and looked down at me condescendingly. Did he just kiss you? I trembled inside. Don't talk nonsense. Simon had indeed been very close to me, but kiss me? How could that be? Eric reached out and lightly touched the corner of my lips. I saw your shadows on the window. I turned my head away to avoid his fingers. Eric, why are you always so inexplicable? Just like last time, during the first aid training in gym class, I was grouped with Simon, and you just locked me in the equipment room. Every time I talk a bit more with Simon, you get angry. I asked him the same question again. Do you like me? Eric's calloused fingertips gently traced my lips. Kiss me, and I'll tell you. Under the moonlight, his eyebrows were like stars, his eyes deep as pools. Perhaps it was the beautiful moonlight, perhaps the gentle sea breeze, perhaps his enchanting voice, or maybe something else. But a string in my heart trembled. I gently grabbed his shirt, stood on my toes, and moved towards his slightly parted lips, awkwardly closing the gap. The moment our lips touched, he tensed his arms instantly, one hand pulling me close by my waist, the other gripping the back of my head, kissing and biting my lips with frenzy. I don't know how much time passed before he finally let me go. That day, we returned very late, our hair and clothes carrying the scent of the sea. When Eric dropped me off at the alley, Simon was under a street lamp. It was the day Simon's dad was discharged from the hospital. Next to a taxi, Simon and his mom were helping him into a wheelchair. Simon glanced at us, his expression somewhat shattered. Following Simon's gaze, his father saw Eric, suddenly became agitated, and rolled out of the wheelchair to crawl and kneel before him, touching his shoes with a hoarse voice. Sir, I beg you, please help our corporation. Simon desperately tried to pull his dad up. Dad, don't beg him. It's useless. Eric coldly withdrew his foot, told me sleep early, see you tomorrow, and then mounted his motorcycle and roared away. Chapter 7. Late at night, I sat in front of the mirror, looking at my reflection. Single eyelids, thick lips, dark skin, though my acne had cleared up quite a bit. Still, far from beautiful. I remembered that music festival, the men and women around Eric, all of them good-looking and stylish. Each girl prettier than me. That day, wearing a volunteer's white t-shirt, soaked by water guns, my clothes became see-through. Eric gave me his jacket to wrap around myself and suggested taking me for a ride to dry off. In the eyes of those girls, I saw jealousy, mockery, and disdain. One girl said, Eric, just give her my jacket. No need for such a fuss. Another guy joked, Eric's taken a quirky turn in his taste for women. From a worldly perspective, I'm far from a match for Eric, whether in looks, family background, or personal achievements. Seeing Simon's dad humbly kneeling and begging him, and Eric not even bothering with a courteous reply, I was jolted by the realization of how distant his world was from mine, far beyond my imagination. I remembered Simon's words, after your silly fling, he'll turn back into his princely self. But what about you? Eric and I are not from the same world. He was born in Rome, able to live as he pleases, carefree. But me, other than struggling through the massive competition of the college entrance exams, I have no other path. So the next day, when Eric came to take me out again, I refused. I said, the college entrance exams are coming up. I don't have time to go out. He paused, then said, then let's go study. Me? He took me to his home, a place at the foot of a mountain with a guardhouse. From the guard to the hillside villa passing a lake, woods, and a vast lawn. Once, Simon's dad took Simon and me hiking and pointed out this place to us. He said, "People living there can change others' lives with just a few words." Now here I was, standing in this opulent setting, feeling utterly out of place. Eric took my hand and without further ado, pulled me into his world. He spoke to the middle-aged man who came to greet us at the door. "Uncle, have the teacher come over and give my girlfriend some extra tutoring in physics. That's the only subject she's a bit weak in." That day, I attended a physics class in a state of extreme shock, confusion, and apprehension. Throughout, he propped his chin on his hands, watching me with amusement. From time to time, he'd pour me a glass of water or bring over a fruit plate. Eventually, he cornered me in the chair, his breath warm against my ear. "Have you studied enough today? If so, shall we do something else?" I pushed him away, my face burning. "Your parents will be back soon, right? I should go." He gently bit my earlobe. "They're abroad right now." I immediately jumped up. That meant I needed to leave even more urgently. He wasn't annoyed, though. He just pecked my lips lightly, called me heartless, and then took his helmet to escort me back to Fumin Lane. After he left, I stood at the dilapidated entrance of the alley looking back towards his house, realizing for the first time the vast disparity in which we lived. This disparity, Eric seemed indifferent to, but I found it hard to ignore. Why he liked me, whether it was just for the novelty, and how long this novelty might last, I didn't know. I just kept telling myself, live in the moment, and don't worry about things that haven't happened yet. Chapter 8. I never expected this day to come so soon. It all started when Simon's dad came to see me. That day, he sat uneasily in his wheelchair, took a long time to muster his words, and finally said what he wanted to say. "I heard that Selena and Eric are seeing each other. Eric is very fond of Selena and grants her every request." My dad's face turned sour upon hearing this. "That's not true. I haven't heard anything about it." My mom, rolling her yarn, stayed silent. I clarified, "Uncle, Eric and I are just classmates. Nothing more." Suddenly, Simon's dad grabbed my clothes, struggling to speak. "Selena, I always treated you well. Hasn't he? Can you help me? Just one word from his family, and our corporation could be saved. Could you talk to Eric for me?" I looked at him uncomfortably. "Uncle, we are just students, and what you're asking is too big. Even if Eric says something, it wouldn't count. You need to speak to someone in charge in his family." Simon's dad insisted. "Eric is their only son, and they've been grooming him to take over. They cherish him deeply. If he could just mention it casually during a meal, it might just save our entire group." "Selena, this isn't just about me. It involves your aunt, Simon, and thousands of people in our corporation." That night, I tossed and turned. My mom had been a housekeeper at the Simmons family for 6 years, and I had been reading books in the family study for just as long. Simon's parents had always treated me well and broadened my horizons. Shouldn't one be grateful? On the weekend, Eric came to pick me up to study at his house. After wrestling with the decision for 2 days, I finally spoke up just before leaving. I was talking while Eric was pouring me a glass of water. After I finished speaking, the water overflowed from the glass. The water spilled onto the table and then onto the floor. Eric, with his back to me, spoke in a tone colder than I had ever heard before. "Is this the first time you ask me for something? And it's for Simon? Do you even know what the Simon Family Corporation is accused of that got them liquidated? Are you speaking on their behalf knowing it's financial crimes they're implicated in? All involved are under investigation, and the outcomes are still pending. Do you expect our family to get involved now? Can't you just forget Simon? If that's the case, please stop bothering me." That day, Eric was very angry. Afterwards, he wasn't seen at school for 2 consecutive weeks. By then, he had become a celebrated figure at school. Everyone knew about Eric winning the Olympic trials. All the girls were discussing how handsome he looked while shooting. Many people also pestered me about how I managed to win him over. Right after he returned to school with his award, he used to ride me to and from school on his roaring motorcycle, not avoiding anyone. When asked about our relationship, he openly replied, "Girlfriend, can't you tell?" Now, staring at the empty seat next to me. My heart also felt a huge void. Later, I sent him a message apologizing and explaining, but he didn't reply. The next time I saw him was at the 100 days pledge ceremony for the college entrance exams. He walked across the vast playground, accompanied by a girl so beautiful she seemed to glow. At that moment, I was on stage speaking on behalf of all students, and his arrival immediately caused a stir, with everyone craning their necks to see him. Seeing that he was with another girl, they looked curiously at me. He and the girl stood at the bottom of the stage, looking at me as if I were a stranger. I fought back tears in my eyes as I led the oath with all the students. I was born on a mountain, not a stream. I wished to look down on mediocrity from the peak of the summits, while the students pledged with fervor. He remained silent. That day, he stopped me at the school gate to tell me he would be going to Stanford for college. I said, "Congratulations. Are you still aiming for Tsinghua?" "Yes." He gave a self-deprecating laugh, put on his helmet, and left with the roar of his engine. That was the last time I saw him before the college entrance exams. The next time I saw him was on TV. 18-year-old Eric won a gold medal at the Olympics. The national flag was raised for him, and the anthem played in his honor. He truly was the one who looked down on mediocrity from the peak of the summits. I silently packed away all the little trinkets he had given me and deleted his contact information. The dream ended, and we went our separate ways. Chapter 9. Simon and I both ended up at Tsinghua University. After starting university, he inexplicably began pursuing me. By then, my acne had cleared up. My face and body were slimmer than before. I wore makeup, changed my hairstyle, and paid more attention to my outfits. I started to turn heads when I went out. I began to take care of myself, not to please others, but for my own satisfaction, to feel more confident and happier. My roommate said, "You're not the traditional pale, young, and slim type of beauty, but rather a distinctive, wild, and flavorful kind of beautiful." I told them I was once voted the ugliest in my class, and they were incredulous. "How is that possible? You're the one who gets chased by photographers in the streets. Was that a class of hidden dragons and crouching tigers? What kind of taste was that?" I laughed and said, "Don't believe me? Ask Simon from the finance department next time. He voted for me too." That set them off even more. "No way. So now he's pursuing you so openly. Is he schizophrenic?" I just smiled and didn't respond. Simon's family managed to pull through in the end. Only the senior executives were arrested. His dad was fine, and the corporation resumed its operations. However, Simon refused to move back to the villa and continued living in Fumin Lane. When on vacation, he'd often come over to my place for meals. He went out of his way to treat me well, and he apologized hundreds of times. He said, "I was blinded by jealousy and acted like a jerk. Every day you were with Eric was torture for me. I spent countless nights sleepless, and every time I saw you smile at him, it felt like I was dying. Can you give me another chance?" I accepted his apology but not his confession. Some things, once missed, are missed forever. Some feelings, once gone, are gone. Yet, he persisted, dedicating all his time and energy outside of his studies and business to me and my family. He said he believed in the persistence of dripping water wearing away a stone, and in the monumental effort of filling the sea and moving mountains. I said, "Don't get carried away with yourself." Chapter 10. During my junior year in college, two significant changes occurred in my life. First, the demolition of Fumin Lane ensured my parents no longer had financial worries. Second, I signed with an international modeling agency and earned my first significant income. After appearing in various fashion shows, both domestic and international, I had many suitors, but I had no desire to date. My roommate jokes, "Could it be that you met someone too dazzling in your youth, making it hard to be moved by anyone else now?" Eric's smiling face popped into my mind. It had been a long time since I'd seen him, but I kept up with his activities. One of my roommates, a die-hard fan of his, would occasionally post updates about him in our group chat. He still loved adventure. His social media was filled with his extreme sports activities around the world: rock climbing, surfing, mountain skiing, free diving, wingsuit flying, and more. Once, during a wingsuit flight, he nearly had an accident due to strong winds, but he continued to engage in these dangerous sports recklessly. His posts never featured any women. My roommate said that was one of the reasons he attracted so many female followers. The closest I came to seeing him again was when he was invited to a talk at Tsinghua. I held a ticket in my hand, standing at the entrance of the auditorium, but ultimately, I didn't go inside. I truly saw him again 3 years after graduation. By then, I had established my own art exhibition studio and continued to model part-time. Once, while in Milan for Prada's new collection show, I saw Eric's latest Instagram post also located in Milan, which unexpectedly quickened my heartbeat. I was both excited and fearful about the possibility of running into him. As the spotlight came on, I walked out onto the runway. After many years, I saw him again, underneath the runway. He was dressed in a black shirt with a slightly open collar and casually rolled sleeves, exuding an air of elegance and maturity, very different from his high school days. When I spotted him, he was turning his head to speak with a girl beside him. That girl, whom I had seen 7 years ago, was still stunningly beautiful. He took off his jacket and handed it to her, then opened a bottle of mineral water for her. She looked at him with a smile, her eyes curved gently like the moon. A match made in heaven. I had naively hoped that his lack of posting women on Instagram meant he didn't have a girlfriend. 7 years had passed, and I thought I had moved on. But the second I saw him, the moment I saw him tenderly caring for another girl, tears inexplicably streamed down my face. Crying at a fashion show. This was a major incident. Unexpectedly, this tearful glance became viral. The entire internet was discussing what had happened to this heart-wrenching China beauty. Some bloggers even analyzed my expressions and movements in slow motion. The theme of this fashion show was transformation. Look everyone, when Selena first came out, her aura and confidence were striking. About halfway through, her smile suddenly became shy, much softer, and as she walked forward to the front position, her smile turned somewhat self-mocking. The final, iconic glance back, with a shattered gaze and a single tear rolling down, yet her smile was one of release. This vividly illustrated how a heart goes from freedom to sudden shock, to breaking, to healing, and then to rebirth. A perfect interpretation of the theme transformation. What do you call this? This is professionalism. The top comment received over 10,000 likes. Fun fact, modeling is just a side job for this young lady. Her own art exhibition company is also a rising star in the industry. Moreover, she graduated from Tsinghua for her undergraduate and has an MBA from Peking University. A scholar walking the runway truly stands out, telling a whole story in 30 seconds with just her eyes. Her features are so unique. At first glance, you might not think she's very beautiful, but you just can't help looking over and over again. I'm about to fall for her. Amid this serendipitous surge of popularity, I, in my International Fashion Week debut, was invited to the main banquet hall of the celebration. There, I saw Eric again. Chapter 11. Holding a glass of wine and maintaining a poised smile, I mingled among the world's elites and magnates, being praised, seen, complimented, and stared at didn't bother me. I had my own agenda. From the moment I entered, Eric's gaze followed me. I pretended not to notice, effortlessly navigating among the various men, laughing freely, allowing those with money and power to chase me as their target. I knew what I was doing, and I knew how to get what I wanted without losing out too much in these kinds of settings. Drink after drink, dance partner after dance partner. During the 7th dance, Eric took hold of my waist. A familiar voice whispered in my ear with a hint of anger. Selena, you're doing this on purpose, aren't you? Intentionally catching his attention, intentionally provoking him. I casually draped an arm over his shoulder, my gaze hazy. Yes, I am doing it on purpose. Here in this glittering chaos, some are fish, some are bait, some are fishermen, each one purposefully playing their part. He tightened his grip around my waist, pulling me closer. Haven't seen you in years, and you've forgotten how to speak plainly. Haven't seen you in years, and Eric has learned to make wild accusations. He stared into my eyes like a hawk, his grip increasingly dominant. Where's Simon? Why didn't he come with you to Milan? I countered, And your companion? She didn't come tonight? So, you saw me at the fashion show. I was at a disadvantage and fell silent, just following his lead in the dance. When the music stopped, he led me to a deserted terrace. The air was chilly, and he draped his jacket over my shoulders without me refusing it. After a few drinks, he finally spoke up. That tear. Who was it for? What do you think? He silently stared into the distance, then slowly said, For a moment, I thought it was for me. I was about to respond when his companion hurried over, looking at us with a puzzled expression. Eric. Who is this lady? Eric paused for a moment before introducing. Selena, my high school classmate and ex-girlfriend. Laura, my childhood friend and fiancé. Suddenly, a cold night breeze swept through, chilling to the bone. Laura greeted me openly. So you are Miss Selena. Nice to meet you. I've heard so much about you. Eric misspoke. We're not fiancés yet. The engagement isn't until the end of the month. Her gaze briefly flicked over the jacket I was wearing. I immediately started to take it off, understanding the hint, but somehow it got stuck, and I couldn't get it off. My face turned bright red, my hands flustered, and I was utterly embarrassed. I thought I would never encounter a more awkward moment in my life. Laura gently grasped my hand, stopping my embarrassed and comical efforts. It's okay, Selena. Keep it on. I numbly nodded, saying, Thank you. I have to go now. The lyrics say, when you desire nothing, whether there is wind or not, you are free. What can't be had? Besides letting go, what else can one do? I returned to the banquet, met the people I needed to meet, and acquired the resources I needed. That night, I obtained the private contact details of many celebrities and magnates, as well as several collaboration invitations from major international brands. Back at the hotel, tipsy, I subconsciously reached into my pocket for my phone. The screen lit up, displaying a photo of me as the screensaver. I entered the password to unlock it, intending to call my assistant, but realized I hadn't saved her number. Puzzled, my phone suddenly rang. My phone is with you. Can I have it back? Intoxicated, I said. How would your phone be with me? You're mistaken. The one you're holding is my phone. Where are you? I'll come get it. I'm in. I felt the bed underneath me and muttered. On the bed. There was a long silence on the other end. Then a hoarse voice said, Which hotel are you at? The Bulgari? That night, alcohol blurred me, but clarified him. Chapter 12. On my flight back to Beijing, the airline informed me that I was upgraded. I've been upgraded before, but this was the first time it involved switching planes. An empty shuttle bus took me to the aircraft, and upon boarding, I realized it was a private jet. I had my suspicions. Sure enough, the only other passenger, Eric, was reviewing financial reports. What's this about? He looked up at me. Convenient route. Taking you back home. I found it amusing. You're getting engaged at the end of the month, and now you're ditching your fiancé to take me home? He simply replied, Yes. I turned to leave the plane, unwilling to entangle myself in a potentially harmful and complicated situation. However, the cabin door was already closed. Sit down, buckle up, and then we can discuss a business matter. I was taken aback, realizing we were actually here to talk business. Eric explained that his family wanted to donate a collection of artifacts to the National Museum. Items he had recovered over the years in Europe and America. Some were found in private hands. Others were acquired at auctions, and still others were donated by Chinese-American businessmen. There were a total of 361 pieces. This collection would have its own exhibition. He said, I want your company to handle it, controlling the surge of emotions inside. I immediately agreed. He chuckled. You agree without discussing the business terms? Even if it costs me money, I'd still take this job. The social value far outweighs the economic value. I understand that. When do we sign the contract? To show my sincerity, I opened my laptop right there and started drafting a plan. While drafting, I asked him a naive question. Are the artifacts on this plane? He replied, No, they wouldn't fit. I expressed disappointment. So none of the treasures you recovered are here? I was hoping to feast my eyes on them first. He looked up from his iPad, his gaze settling on me. There is one piece. I must carry it with me to feel secure. I eagerly asked, "What is it?" "You're so smart. Can't you guess? Could it be the long-lost imperial seal of China?" He just stared. Chapter 13. After the plane landed, he promptly took me to a Cayenne and drove straight to the villa. Anytime I showed signs of resistance, he would ask, "Do you still want to sign the contract?" In the empty villa, a long dining table was already set for a meal. We sat on opposite sides, and Eric pushed the contract towards me. "Answer 3 questions truthfully, and not only will you handle this artifact exhibition, but all future art exhibitions within our company's reach will be yours." Such a deal? I immediately responded, "What questions?" "I guarantee 100% honesty." "Go ahead." He opened a bottle of wine and poured me half a glass. "Who was that tear for?" I took the glass, looked him in the eyes and answered truthfully, "For you. For myself. For our love that ended without disease." Hearing this, he paused, then suddenly drank the entire glass. I smiled and joined him with a glass. "Next question. Tell me, have you ever regretted choosing him over me all these years?" I refilled his glass and said calmly, "I never chose him." He looked at me incredulously. "Selena, the rule is to tell the truth." "That is the truth. I never chose him. Not even when I pleaded for his family years ago, it was for his parents. I had moved on from him long ago. But you never believed it. Haven't you been with him these past 7 years?" "No." He suddenly seemed to have trouble breathing, gasping dramatically, then burst into laughter, tears spilling from his eyes, and once again downed the glass of wine. I joined him with another glass, then asked, "The 3rd question? Let's have dinner first. We can talk after, okay?" Then we started a silent and lengthy dinner. He meticulously served each dish, his movements refined and graceful, completely different from the Eric who used to casually bite into the apple one handed him back then. Feeling a bit stifled, I asked if we could turn on the TV in the adjacent living room to liven things up a bit. The TV turned onto a financial channel, and suddenly Simon's voice filled the empty living room. The host was interviewing him. Now, Simon was a rising star in finance, the president of HY Group. The host asked him if he had any regrets in life. Looking into the camera, Simon said, "In high school, I mistook a pearl for a fish's eye and carelessly let someone else snatch it away. I've regretted it every day and night for the past 7 years. Fortunately, she's single now, and I still have a chance." The someone else he mentioned was currently dining with me. Hearing this, Eric politely set down his knife and fork, pushed the sliced Wagyu beef towards me, and said he needed to make a call. I stood up to turn off the TV as the sea breeze came in. Hearing everything clearly, on the seaside balcony, he coldly ordered, "HY is in its Series C funding round, right? Let's have our 3 companies withdraw all investments." After making the call, he returned to the dining table. "Selena, the last question. Think carefully before you answer." I nodded solemnly. "Do you want me to cancel my engagement?" Chapter 14. Eric's Perspective. Laura couldn't quite understand why Eric had fallen for Selena back in high school. She had followed him to school once and saw what seemed like just an ordinary girl. Decent looks and figure, good grades, average family background. Among ordinary people she might stand out. But for someone like Eric, she seemed far from a match. Only Eric himself knew why. The first time Eric saw Selena was at the scene of an accident. That day, a construction worker in his 20s fell from a 6-meter-high building under construction, his thin chest impaling on the protruding steel rebar. He didn't die instantly but rather, balanced on his tiptoes, suspended on the rebar, vomiting blood and wailing for his mother in agony. The scene was too gruesome. Bystanders were in panic, clueless about what to do, forced to watch the young man bleed more and more. Some sighed tragically, others cried covering their faces, and some couldn't bear to watch any longer. As Eric was contacting emergency services, a girl with a backpack, dressed simply, rushed forward. She bravely embraced the blood-covered construction worker, supporting him, giving him something to lean on so he didn't have to stand on his toes. She spoke softly, "Don't be afraid. It's going to be okay." It will get better. The doctors will be here soon. Just hold on a little longer. She wanted to ease his pain. She wanted him not to die so alone. That day, the construction worker repeatedly cried for his mother, crying out in pain, and died in her arms. When the construction worker took his last breath, she was covered in blood, her eyes tearful. At that time, she was only in her second year of high school. Eric remembered a phrase from an instructor, while the ice still covered the northern sea. I saw the blooming plum blossoms. He had never seen such a fervent soul as hers. From that day on, the girl named Selena entered Eric's heart and never left. For her, he transferred to a public high school. Not long after transferring, Eric discovered that she had someone she liked. She had an entire sketchbook filled with drawings of Simon. Simon. What was so great about him? He even participated in that distasteful class vote that insulted her appearance. When she moved her seat next to his, Eric felt as though the gods had finally answered his prayers, and he started trying every way he could to be nice to her. When she asked him if he liked her, Eric had never been so nervous and incoherent in his life. She always thought of him as someone who just played around. He thought he needed to show her his better side, so he deliberately told her when the Olympic trials would be broadcasted. He even waited under her building, hoping to invite her for skewers and to hear her praise him. But she was at Simon's house. The shadows of the two behind the window were so close together. It drove him mad with jealousy. His upbringing restrained him from rushing upstairs to pull them apart. He counted the seconds at the street corner, his heart frying like in boiling oil. The moment he saw her, he couldn't hold back any longer. That night, he kissed her with all his strength. They got together, but he felt no sense of security. She complied with him but never showed any affection towards him, a stark contrast to her previous feelings for Simon. When she asked him to help the family of Simo, something inside him broke completely. Was it all for Simon? Eric had never experienced such a sense of defeat in his life. She texted him saying, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make things difficult for you. I didn't do it for Simon." How could he believe that? Those gently stroked drawings, those moments when she sneaked glances at Simon. He saw it all. When he returned to school, she was speaking on stage, and Simon was standing by her side, looking at her tenderly. He stopped her at the school gate and asked if she planned to apply to Tsinghua University, and she nodded. So, she still wanted to go to the same university as Simon. Thus, Eric let go. He devoted himself entirely to training for the Olympics. On the day he won the championship, he couldn't help but send Selena a message. "I heard you got into Tsinghua. Congratulations." She had already deleted him. Why? Just because he wasn't willing to help the family of Simon? Chapter 15. Eric eventually discussed Simon's family situation with his father. If Selena truly intended to tie her life to Simon's family, then they couldn't afford any mishaps. Fortunately, Simon's father was not implicated, and the matter was resolved smoothly. Simon came to thank him, and they exchanged pleasantries and added each other on WeChat. From that day on, Eric would occasionally see Selena in Simon's social media updates. Her university life seemed brilliant, and she was visibly becoming more beautiful. He had secretly visited her a few times, careful not to be seen by her. When he was invited to speak at Tsinghua, he couldn't help but indirectly send her a ticket through a professor. But she didn't come, and that seat remained empty all evening. They say, among the myriad afflictions of the human condition, only longing is incurable. Eric understood this all too well. On the day Simon officially announced on social media that he was with Selena, Eric was about to go wingsuit flying. His friends advised against it, but he jumped anyway, encountering unstable air currents along the way. For a moment, he wondered if she would cry for him if something really happened to him. After that, he stopped checking Simon's social media. At that time, he never doubted the authenticity of those social media posts. He didn't realize how far someone might go to possess another. All he knew was that he had never missed someone so much while also not wanting to see them. The fact that she would never be his drove him to despair. His obsessive thoughts and frustrations could only be vented through various extreme sports. Everything changed at the Milan fashion show. Selena looked at herself, her eyes bright yet sad. When that tear fell from her eye, Eric's perceptions were overturned. Why was she crying? Could it possibly be for him? Did she still hold a place for him in her heart? He needed to know the answer. On the balcony at the banquet, he asked her once more. Beside the corridor of the Bulgari Hotel, he asked again. She was tipsy then, clinging to his neck, and said, "In this world, only one person can make me cry. That person is so far away from me. I've been chasing desperately, and I've finally gotten a little closer. But he's about to get married." Eric was initially shocked and confused, but gradually his feelings turned to ecstatic joy. The answer was almost within reach. But these were her drunken words. He needed to hear her answer clearly and soberly. Chapter 16. Eric asked me 3 questions. But actually, it was all the same question. Do you love me? His expression was so cautious and anxious. Everything was becoming clear. I looked into his eyes and asked the only question I had. What exactly is your relationship with Laura? Answer my question first. I need to know what your relationship is with her before I can answer your question. Don't worry about that. Just tell me. Do you want me to call off the engagement? He stubbornly looked at me, demanding an answer without any concern for the consequences. I took a deep breath and answered seriously. Yes. I want you to call it off. I don't want to see you marry someone else. But my words were cut off by his kiss. Forceful, fierce, as if he wanted to devour everything. It was both revenge and compensation. I still had a bit of rationality left, reminding him of Laura, while kissing me intensely. He called Laura on speakerphone. Lara's voice came out anxiously. Cousin, how did it go? Did it work? If he's jealous, he definitely has feelings for you. Did my serial tactics work? What about what you promised me? Eric, that little star you like. I'll sponsor a reality show to have him accompany you to the mountains for 2 months. Me? Chapter 17. That night, the moonlight was gentle, and the sea breeze was moist. He whispered in my ear, more beguiling with each phrase. Can we? The moonlight spread inch by inch, and the waves assaulted wave by wave, into my ears, into my body, into my heart. The shadows on the wall intertwined with the moonlight, sinking bit by bit into this boundless intimacy. I remembered the first time I saw him at school. It was during the winter of my sophomore year, with heavy snowfall. After finishing my chores, I went out to take out the trash, and he was standing under the hallway light holding some books. The dim yellow light illuminated his face, making him look like a painting. He said, "Classmate, are you from class 2-1? I'm a transfer student. My name is Eric. Do you need a desk mate?" I remembered once when I was in pain during my period, lying on the desk. He casually handed me a box of painkillers and then bought milk tea for the whole class. Only mine was warm. I remembered the many times I inadvertently looked back and crashed into his hurriedly averted gaze. I remembered the first time he left everyone behind to take me for a ride, his back tense yet unable to hide his joy. But back then, I was confined by the word ugly, never daring to believe that someone could like me out of the blue. Even though he repeatedly showed his feelings through his actions, I dared not fully believe them. It turns out, he was just like me, terrified and unconfident in love. How foolish and ridiculous we both were. But fortunately, after all the twists and turns, we didn't miss out. Later, a reporter interviewed us and asked if we regretted missing out on each other for 7 whole years. Eric was definitive, of course. I nodded, but then shook my head, regretful, yet not regretful. In high school, when I saw him shine, I felt dim. He was a towering tree early on, while I was just a seed. Without these 7 years of slowly allowing myself to break through the soil and grow towards the sun, I wouldn't be able to stand before him as an equal and confidently accept his love today. The reporter then asked, "We heard that HY Group's CEO Simon has been publicly showing his love for Selena recently, even naming the company's flagship product after her." Eric looked at the camera. "This will air tonight, right?" The cameraman nodded. Eric pulled out 2 red booklets marriage certificate. "Simon, take a good look at what these are. If you keep harassing my wife, I will take real action. You better think carefully." I said, "Cut that part." He replied, "No, let it air." "Why do you want it cut? Do you have something in mind?" "It sounds like a childish argument. It's beneath us." "I don't care. Are you sure you want our wedding announcement video to include him? He thought about it and shook his head vigorously. Chapter 18. Before the wedding, while standing on the seaside balcony, I asked him a question that had been buried in my heart for a long time. Eric, in high school, didn't you think I was awkward and ugly? Back then, all the boys in the class thought I was ugly. He answered, the first time I saw you, you were holding that construction worker covered in blood. At that moment, you were so dazzling that I couldn't even look at you directly. Later, I watched your profile for a whole year, and how many times you appeared in my dreams. You'll never know. I matured early, and I knew that the standards of beauty and ugliness are subjective and ever-changing. Judging people by their appearance is crude and shallow. I also know that a beautiful face will eventually fade with time, but a beautiful soul will never lose its radiance. The most important thing is, you have to believe me. The person I choose must be the best one in a million.